So, hello everyone. I'm here to tell you in deep about the term goods and service tax. As we all know, goods and service tax was just introduced in the year 2017, in the month of July. So, everybody are not sure. And the people who are pursuing it as specialization are also sometimes unsure about what exactly GST is and how does it works. So, to make it very clear for you all, I am here to give you a detailed explanation about GST in my upcoming videos. And of course, we'll have an introductory session in this lecture. So, to begin with, let us know what exactly first the word tax stands for, because GST is basically a form of tax, right? So it is very important to understand what does tax stands for, what does tax means. So if to put in simple words, tax means any amount of money paid by the individual to the government. Okay. Now, for example, if okay, so do you all agree that if I pay any amount of money as an individual to the government is a tax? I don't think so. See, for example, if I am paying rupees 100 as a fine to police officer, an indirect officer of government itself. So, if I am paying amount of rupees 100 as a fine, will it be called as tax? No. So, the main part of this definition which plays an important role is the money paid by the individuals to government, which in turn is used to provide public services, is tax. Okay. Now, if I'm paying upon my income or on my consumption a fixed rate, that will be termed as tax. Now, let me ask you all a question for quick revision. So that is, if Deepak is paying rupees 5,000 fine to government for breaking a law, will it be considered under the term tax? No, right? Why? Because it is a fine. There is a difference between the term tax and fine. Okay. Now, moving ahead. Even tax is divided into two halves. What are those? Direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax and indirect tax. So can anybody tell me the meaning of direct tax? What do you understand by the term direct tax? Direct tax, as the word tells, it is paid by the individual directly to the government. Paid directly by the individual to the government. Okay. And it is levied on the income of each individual. Now, for example, as mentioned here, Rajini is earning 6 lakhs. So she is paying 13,500. Rahul is earning 10 lakhs and the tax liability is 1,12,500. So what inference do you draw from this? Higher the income, higher the tax liability. Okay. And it is directly paid by the individual to the government. Suppose, and there's like you people file your income tax so that you're personally yourself paying it. There are no middlemen involved. Now, coming to indirect tax, it is indirectly paid by the individual to the government. For example, how will you say it indirectly? Now, let me tell you. Now, there is a supplier chain, right? This is manufacturer. Manufacturers provide goods to wholesaler, right? Wholesaler will provide goods to retailers. Yes or no? It will provide to retailers. Retailers will provide to consumers. But consumer will pay money to retailers. It will have some tax involved. The consumer will pay to retailer tax. Retailer will pay to wholesaler tax. Then wholesaler is paying to manufacturer some tax. then this tax is paid by manufacturer to the government. That is why this is how the people are paying indirect tax. Understood? And it is basically consumption, right? Wholesaler will get that amount of tax only, how much the amount of goods he's taking from wholesaler, on that only he'll pay him tax, right? Like this, how the individuals are paying indirectly to the government. Okay. And it is levied on the consumption. It is levied on the consumption. And let me tell you one more important thing. There is one more term called reverse charge. What is reverse charge? When GST is paid directly by the individuals to the government, is called reverse charge. Basically, it is reverse indirect tax, okay? Reverse charge. Got it? So this was the main difference. Next, what are the limitations? Why did we need this GST? There might be a few reasons, right? That we have introduced GST. So let me keep light on main of the 3 points. So first point among them is multiple registration. Multiple registration means, let me tell you, before GST, we had multiple indirect taxes, right? GST is what? One nation, one tax. But before, it was one nation, several tax. Several taxes like central excise, VAT, service tax, luxury tax, all these different types of tax we were asked to pay at different point of time. But when we are paying tax, before paying, we need to register ourselves. So it was very difficult for a person to have documentation of so many registrations, right? It was not easy to register, and always, government officials and they're working, right? It is very difficult to always stay in touch with them, to keep your registration up to date. It was a very huge mess. That is why this was one of the main limitation of previous tax regime. Then, as mentioned, different point of taxation. When a businessman is manufacturing, he was asked to pay central excise. Then, when he was providing services, he was asked to pay service tax. Then again, when he is selling the goods, he was asked to pay a value addition tax. So, can you tell me one more term? Basically, cascading effect, right? Tax on tax. It was having a cascading effect. What is cascading effect? Tax on tax. Just like first you're paying central excise, then upon that you're paying service tax and again VAT. So that was tax on tax. This was also one of the limitations. Again, third limitation was lack of uniformity. What do I mean when I say lack of uniformity? Now, when there are many indirect taxes, okay? So, for say example, if I am a manufacturing of sugar and I am supplying sugar. So, if I take example of two states, that is Gujarat and Maharashtra. In Gujarat, they're asking me to pay a tax of 4%. And when my competitor is going and supplying in Maharashtra, we are producing same amount of sugar, we are supplying same amount of sugar, but there was a discrimination in the amount of tax paid. My competitor was getting more tax benefit than me because I was supplying in Gujarat, he was supplying in Maharashtra. I was required to pay 4% tax, he was required to pay no tax. So there was lack of uniformity. Now we have GST. Then they came up and told that we have to introduce GST so that we have uniformity in all over India. Okay. Now, if we come and say, like for example, today, me as a minister, I go and say I want to introduce GST. Will tomorrow it get introduced? Is it so easy to introduce a law? What is your take? So, GST, the introduction of GST was going on since 1986. The passing of bill and all. Since 1986. Why 1986? Why did it take so long? Can anybody tell me why did it take so long to introduce an act like GST? Since 1986, today and it was introduced in July 2017. So basically it took 15 plus years to bring GST in motion. Now, why did it take a lot of time? Because as I told, one nation, one tax, right? So central was scared that state will take away all the money, and state was scared that central will take away all my money. So the ministers in the sabhas, in the houses of parliament, they were not ready to pass this bill. Okay. Finally, after passing of bill in July 2017, it was called as the GST Act 2016. The GST Act 2016 was introduced. Okay. Then, now GST, from that time I'm telling GST was introduced, GST does that, GST does this. But let us come to know a perfect definition of GST. So guys, what is GST to you? To put it in simple words, GST is a indirect destination-based tax. Now, what is destination-based tax? Before coming to that, let me finish my definition. So, GST is an indirect destination-based tax levied on consumption of goods or services. As I already told, it is on your consumption, and also it is subsuming variety of indirect tax like central excise, service tax, VAT, luxury tax, etc. Right? Now, what do I mean by telling destination based tax? Now, to understand it simply, let me give you an example. Destination based tax means, for example, if there is a producer named Rohit, he is producing sugar in Hyderabad, okay, and supplying in Kolkata. Then, who will collect the tax revenue? The tax revenue will be collected by Kolkata. Why? Because the point of supply, which is the destination where he is supplying, is Calcutta. Now, if he is supplying in Kolkata, where is the consumption taking place? In Kolkata. So, the tax revenue, the GST, will also be collected by Kolkata government. Okay, understood? Now, let me put a question. If Ayush is producing wheat in Goa and supplying in Maharashtra, the tax revenue will be collected by which government? It will be collected by Maharashtra government because point of supply is Maharashtra, right? Now, as I told you that state and central government both were of different opinions, and they were scared that the revenue might be lessened or taken away. So India decided to introduce a concept of dual GST model. As we have a federal structure in which state government and union government take part together, like that only in our dual GST model, both government collect tax. Okay, before getting to know deep into it, let me first tell you what is intrastate supply. And there are two types of supply, okay? Intrastate and interstate. In intrastate, you produce and supply in same state. Only one state is involved. And interstate supply, two states are involved. You produce in one state and supply in another state. Now, how to remember this very easily without confusion is, so all of you are intermediate passed. In intermediate, how many classes you studied? Or how many years did you study there? 11th and 12th, right? Now 11th and 12th are 2 years. So here the 2 years represent two states. So produce in one state and supply in another state. That is interstate supply, right? Now identify, guys. For a quick recap and understanding, if Mudit manufactures flour in Goa, manufacturing in Goa, and supplies in Goa, what is this? Intrastate, right? Because only one state is involved. That state is Goa. Next, if Rishabh manufactures glass in Goa and supplies in Rajasthan, how many states are involved? Two states. So this is inter-supply, right? Now, there are different types of GST applicable on each of the supply. Now, if you're doing an intra-state, means only when one state is applicable, then you have to pay central GST and state GST. What is this? CGST. CGST is what? Central GST, right? CGST and SGST. Okay. CGST and SGST. CGST and SGST, how it works? If suppose you're going in a restaurant, in your bill you'll find this. CGST 2.5%, SGST 2.5%, total 5%. So what you see is both central government and state government are dividing this total 5% into 50-50%, right? That is what is it. And both center and state collects 50%. Okay. Now, when you're doing interstate supply means when there are two states involved, producing in one state and supplying in another state. So, if Rishabh manufactures glass in Goa and supply in Rajasthan, he should pay what? IGST. So he will pay direct IGST of 5%, which will directly go only to the central government. Okay. Now, apart from states, we have union territories also. And there are union territories without legislatures and with legislatures. Okay, legislature assembly, I mean. So, with legislatures, whichever are there, that is, we have only two union territories with legislatures, Delhi and Puducherry, right? They will still be applicable of state GST. They fall under state GST. But without legislatures, have to pay union territory GST, that is UT GST. Okay? Like Ladakh, if you take for example, Ladakh, if you're going in Ladakh and you're paying a bill, they will be applying in your bill UT GST 5%. That will directly go to the Union Territory government. Okay. And IGST full form is Integrated GST, CGST Central GST, State GST is SGST, and UT GST is Union Territory GST. After that, there are different GST rates. Now you can't apply everywhere same rates, right? Few are luxurious products, few are like high consumption products. Now, there are different rates. For example, if you go to a gold store, so they will take a GST of rupees 3% because 3% is applicable on metals. Next is mass consumption items. Mostly when, mass consumption items, they will take 5%. And next, 12 or 18% will be taken on, it is like a standard rate. It will be covering your manufacturing goods or services, most of them, okay? And 28% will be on mostly like sin goods, like tobacco and pan masala. All this 28% will be taken. But does GST cover all the goods and services? No. There are some items kept outside the purview of GST, like alcohol used for human consumption is outside the purview. It is only collected by the state. Petroleum products are also kept outside the purview, only state. Property tax such as stamp duty also can be levied by the state only. Entertainment tax levied by local bodies is also under the purview of state. And electricity is also under the purview of state. But why did it happen? Can anybody tell me? As I already told, IGST, IGST will be completely taken by the center, right? Center is taking whole of the IGST. So state also need it, right? State also needs something which they want to keep everything under its purview. So they are keeping these 5 items only inside the state purview. Central cannot collect any tax called GST upon these 5 products. Next, apart from this is for today. I hope you understood the things which I have taught today. It is just a basic introduction. In my next session, you'll be learning about registration for GST and who should register and why should they register, with some of the examples and the advantages of getting registered for GST. Okay, thank you guys. Hope so you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. And for any doubts, please comment, and you will be getting your reply within 24 hours. Thank you.